All right, what's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about plug and play programming. So I'm a big template guy. When I sit down and create a program, whether it's for our volleyball girls, for some clients, for myself, what have you, um, I like to sit down and kind of make a template because when we do a program, I'm not a big fan of just doing the same thing repeatedly for 8, 12, 16 weeks, however long you're going to devise your program for. I like to create a template, and then when I create that template, I like to kind of really stick with it, but I will plug and play the exercises or concepts or different methods as we go along and progress throughout the program. Now, if it's like a fixed program, like I'm making something for my website or Train Heroic, kind of like um, let's retract there. So if I just make a program for Train Heroic or like my website, the template doesn't really or can't get changed, throughout the program because it's kind of set. Whereas like if I take an approach for myself or our volleyball girls per se, I can switch things out or I can tweak things as we go along, but it still stays within the template or the system that I created, and then we go from there, right? So this is the most recent program that I released. It is on Train Heroic, and I will link that in the description. This template is based off of that program, so we're going to kind of dive into this today. Now, I like to take, like I said, the plug and play programming approach to all of my programs that I create, because I like to switch things out and interchange as we go, and like I said, add things or tweak things along the way. So this is the template that we're going to talk about today. So for day one, we have our deadlift, our event one, our event two, secondary assistance movement, and then I usually like to run a circuit of a hamstring curl, an adductor movement, and then a glute focus movement, and then every session is followed by core. I'm not really going to get into that. The deadlift can change. The deadlift is going to switch between, let's say, dynamic effort work, repeated effort work, and then every third week would be like a max effort. And then within those 3 weeks, you just keep rotating it as you go along, 3, 6, 9, 12 weeks. Then so you're getting 4 different exposures with the dynamic effort, the repeated effort, and then the max effort. For our events 1 and 2, this can kind of interplay. This could be like a yoke, could be a farmer's carry, it could be a sandbag carry, and then the event 2 could just be something like a stone to shoulder, a sandbag load, sandbag to shoulder, something along those lines. Or it can kind of be an assistance movement that's going to directly correlate to another movement. So this could be like in my program, I have Claiborne squats in there. So that's kind of where you just sit on a box and you have a bag on your lap, and then you come off of the box and into a triple extension, and then you sit back down on the box every single rep. Kind of, removing that the stretch shortening cycle out of your squat, basically. So then the secondary assistance movement is going to be something, typically, obviously this is for a strongman, so it's going to be something that targets the posterior chain. What does that secondary assistance look like? It could be a hinged row variation, so either like a bent over row or a T-bar row. It could be a good morning. It could be a heavy back extension of some sort where we're grabbing a sandbag or we're grabbing a barbell, and then performing our back extensions with a good amount of resistance to them. And then, like I said, the hamstring curl can change. This could be a seated hamstring curl. It could be a lying hamstring curl. It could be band hamstring curls. It could be a standing hamstring curl, obviously. So this kind of just the hamstring curl is what we're after. What variation you pick kind of goes in line with the plug and play programming. It's what you see fit and kind of what you think you need the best for yourself. And that kind of goes back to the events as well. It's kind of just you plug and play. If your week 1's a yoke and your week 2's a farmer, you could just rotate between those two. Kind of just depends. But it's all plug and play based upon how things are going as you're progressing. For day 2, the max effort press, the max effort work is obviously going to have some form of rotation or variety to it. So this changes automatically, but you could base the following week of max effort based upon the last week's. If you notice that you struggled with a certain position or a tempo, or at lockout, whatever it may be, you can then choose a variation that following week that plays off of last week's perceived weakness. And then obviously I do like to do back downs after my max effort work. So we'll do max effort and then the back downs. The back downs are just going to be a whatever max effort variation that you picked, just at a lower percentage based upon the max that you just hit. So then after that, we go into our heavy triceps movement. So this is going to be some form of tricep extensions with a bar. or dips with weight, in my opinion. I like those a lot because they really develop triceps, and then they have really good carryover to pressing strength. So this could be like a JM press, could be a French press where we're taking something behind our head and extending over our head. This could just be a heavy skull crusher, what have you, or extension with the bar. It really doesn't matter. It's just something that's going to hit the triceps in a very heavy way that you can progress over time, 2 to 3, 4 weeks at a time, and then rotate. Something that's going to be nice on the elbows, something that you're not dealing with a lot of pain, but that you can push heavy. That's what we want in this slot. And then our row, this is typically for me in my program, it's going to be a chest supported row of some form, whether that's with dumbbells or like a football bar. I just really like the chest supported row. If you have access to a chest supported row machine, it's a great option to choose here as well. Just taking some stress off the low back from the beating that we're going to take on day one. But we're still getting that rowing motion. We're still hitting some lats, hitting some upper back in there. And then usually I like to run a circuit, biceps, shoulders, upper back, and then some form of tricep push downs to finish the day. Obviously you could split these up into 2 different supersets, but I just like running one giant set. And then so obviously like the biceps, there's different movements within strongman that I think your bicep choices need to vary a little bit within the sport of strongman to help prepare your biceps for the load that they're going to have to handle, whether that's wide grip barbell curls, hammer curls, seated incline dumbbell curls. These are all great options that you can continuously rotate through to keep targeting the biceps and keep them healthy and happy through your strongman training. Our day 3, so this is going to be, let's backtrack a little. Your push press is going to be a very common way that you see people press in the sport of strongman. Not a lot of people are just going to sit there and try to statically press something. They're going to use a bit of a dip followed by an explosive movement from their lower half. So in my opinion, if I'm going to practice the push press, when I'm doing my warm-ups and I have the accessories afterwards, that to me is a lower body movement. It is not, yes, your upper body is, involved, but I mean, it's no different than a back squat or a front squat. Your back is heavily involved in both of those movements, but they're lower body focused. Now, yes, we are extending and catching, the bar over our head when we do push press, so there is a component of upper body in there, no doubt. But in my opinion, when you're going to push press, I like to put that on a lower body day because you're going to warm up the lower body for that specific movement so you can get the most out of your dip and drive. And then I like to, again, continue the day with lower body accessories when I practice my push press because, like I said, I get warmed up for the push press with lower body movements. I want to finish the day with lower body movements. So our event press is our main focus on this day. I will say this will need to play off of that dynamic effort press as well as your max effort work because that is a lot of pressing. So in my opinion, the event press gets a little bit lower volume if you're further out from a competition. So you may only do, 4 to 8 true repetitions with working weight, warm-up sets, but then you're really only getting 4 to 8 quality reps. In my opinion, it's just practice. It's just greasing the groove and then getting your hands on different implements. So the event press can obviously rotate each week. It could be log for 3 weeks, axle for 3 weeks, circus dumbbell for 3 weeks. You could rotate every single one. So you could do log press in week 1, axle in week 2, circus dumbbell in week 3, and then just keep rotating through that wave. Or you could do things like a triphasic thing where you're doing eccentrics for 2 or 3 weeks, you're doing pauses for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you're doing just regular reps, for 2 to 3 weeks. So there's different things that you can, like I said, plug and play within your programming just based upon how that previous week went. If you are going to run log for 3 weeks and you notice that you were kind of wobbly in your dip, all you got to do the next week is we're going to implement a pause dip and then into our push press. That is going to put you in the position that you struggled with last week, and then therefore you're getting the practice in that dip, getting used to that position, getting your body comfortable with what that feels like and familiar, so that way in the midst of competition you're not worried about your dip, okay, because you practiced it. The squat, I really like to utilize different things like front squats. Obviously back squats are always going to be a great option, but in the sport of strongman, front squats, Zercher squats, and then I really like to do like Zercher box squats, as well as low box squats to like a foam pad with the SSB bar. That really helps drive that force out of the hole, which has a great carryover to any of your loading events or just picking up sandbags in general. So I really like to still keep squat volume under control, but pushed pretty heavily. So I like to run, reps of 3 to 6, between 3 and 6 sets total. If you're gonna do a little bit more of like a speed work focus, maybe you can do like 7 or 8, 9 sets of it, as long as you're keeping the reps between 2 and 3. So there's a lot of different things that you can do here with that squat. Like I said, we can do 5x5s, we can do dynamic effort work, we can push heavy triples. So there's a lot of different things that we can do there. The heavy hinge is just going to look like something like an RDL or a good morning, because again, we need to bulletproof our posterior chain in the sport of strongman. So I feel like a heavy hinge is extremely important, and it needs to be kind of front loaded before all these other accessories, so that way we can get quality work with, some heavier loads on our back. Next would be like glute ham raises, Nordics, with the single leg quad. You can rotate that single leg quad between like a reverse lunge, a forward lunge, a side lunge, step ups. There's a lot of different variations that you can do there. And then obviously like switching between different hamstring curl variations on this day and this day, and I only named a handful. There's plenty of variations with hamstring curls that you can do if you have access to bands, TRXs, sliders, or just like various hamstring curl machines. There's a lot of different hamstring curl variations that you can perform. So again, it's just that plug and play idea. Just kind of feel like whatever you need or what's working best for you in that moment, you can keep it in. If you feel like you are going to benefit better from something else, or you're really struggling with something, we can swap it out, make an easy change and still stay within the template in the system, and continue making progress, continue, pressing forward. Day 4 looks just something like dynamic effort press comboed with the med ball slam. So on this day, this is my armor building day, but in my opinion, we still want to push the intensity. This is going to give us a little bit of a conditioning effect, supersetting everything, but I really like the pace of this day. Usually really, really good pump. I get lots of work done in a short, condensed amount of time. So combo your dynamic effort press with a med ball slam. The dynamic effort press, especially in the sport of strongman, can be anything from a floor press, a Z press, a standing shoulder press, incline press, and even a bench press can still serve beneficial for strongman, because you're still getting work in for your pecs, your triceps, your shoulders, and you're actually taking some stress off the shoulders with the bench press, rather than doing like a shoulder press per se. So then your dumbbell press and your lat pull down, these are obviously extremely interchangeable, because the dumbbell press, like I said, with all the dynamic effort press options I just listed, you can do all of those with the dumbbell, but then we can also get a lot of single arm working with the dumbbell press. So keeping a dumbbell press in the template is a really good idea, because we can constantly cycle through various dumbbell presses, whether that's, like I said, dumbbell Z press, dumbbell incline, dumbbell standing shoulder press, dumbbell bench, dumbbell floor press, and then you can do single arms with all of those things. There's just a lot of different variations within that dumbbell press category, that you can implement as you see fit. Same with the lat pull down. We can use various different attachments. We can do single arm lat pull downs. We can do cobra lat pull downs. Again, there's a lot of various ways that we can implement different variations of the lat pull down to target different areas of our back, get a little bit more out of it, what have you. Triceps and biceps superset. Again, biceps different than this day, but you still just have various options that you can throw in. And as long as you're hitting some form of biceps, again, you're staying within the template, but you can plug and play as you see fit. If you're noticing you're having trouble, with supination, or it's bothering you, you can practice some banded supination curls or something like that, just to get a high amount of reps and some blood flow into the bicep and the tendons. Or you can just do something like hammer curls and pump away at a good arm pump. So it really just depends what you're looking to get out of the body part, or the the position or the movement, and then you can plug and play based upon that. Shoulders, upper back, pecs, there's a lot of options there, and most of us pretty much know how to get a good upper body pump. So things like that aren't too difficult. 1 week you could do lateral raises standing, 1 week you could do lateral raises sitting, and then you can do like single arm cable lateral raises. So as long as you're hitting some form of shoulders, you're getting the work done, and you're staying within the template. This is how you keep training variety high. This is how you keep coming back, keep it interesting, keep it challenging, keep it fun. You can set obviously different PRs with all the various movements that there are to perform within each category. And as you can see, this is just a template. There's a lot of different things that you can do, and this is just an example for the most recent program that I came out with. I just wanted to kind of sit down and put it on the board and kind of talk about the plug and play aspect of programming. because I think that it's a very important thing to learn, especially whether you're training yourself or you're a coach training others. Plug and play programming is going to be the number one key to keep making progress long term, to keep coming back, like I said, to keep things fun, challenging, and interesting.